So, hello and welcome to the Authentic Creative, expanding your capacity to feel good. I'm so honored, delighted, and deeply excited because today my dear friend Jana Jones is here today. We, I'm going to tell you a little clip of, her bio. Okay. And then we're going to find out more because there's not all of it is here. We're going to get into it. But she's a healer, she's an astrologer, she's a shamanic practitioner with 22 decades of experience living and practicing on the Washougal River. And can I say that you're a massage therapist?
You can, but I don't like that's only available to people who know me. You have to be in my network.
Yes.
Like,
Okay. Got
yeah.
it. I am in her network, you guys. So I'm gonna share about this, but you really have to kind of get to know her then. And I love that about you because yeah, because I know that you are very intimate in someone's energy when you're giving a massage, and it's a very special experience. I met Jana at a resort, right? Skamania Lodge. And she had this energy. It was very sexy and magnetic. And I remember the moment I saw you, I was like, noticed your energy straight away, that it
Mhm.
was very embodied and very magnetic, and that you were very aware of your presence, right? And so I was quite drawn to that and just was like, okay, I'm aware of her. And then I just left it. And we were both in the women's changing room, and there's a hot tub in the women's changing room. And I was just having such a moment to myself because my husband and my kids, I think, were with us. I can't remember if that was the time they were with us, but you had your girls with you. Yeah? Like your
Yeah.
two of your girls?
Yeah, my two girls and I have a son.
Okay. And was he there too?
He was, yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm in the hot tub in the changing room, and you came over and you're sitting there and we're chatting. And we just had all these things in common, just spiritual connections, locations, things that we were interested in. I think we must have exchanged information there in that
We
moment at the end of the conversation. And then we like went to dinner with another girlfriend of mine uh, locally, and then we like had coffee, and we just dove straight into these deep, therapeutic, cathartic, spiritual conversations because that's who we are. And then I realized that you're a massage therapist exclusively. We'll, make that clear. And you started coming over to my office, and now it's like at least every 2 weeks you're
yeah.
over, and then guys, she's massaging my family, right? Like me, my mom, my stepdad, my dad, my husband regularly. And I am also like you are, very exclusive, specific about who I'm letting into my energy field, right? Like, because it's such an intimate thing to have someone massage your body and to come into your home and to massage your family. Like, I really feel safe with you. You're so
Mm.
strong. You're so intuitive. You're so wise. And I know you draw from so many different wisdoms. And because I've watched your Instagram, I see like you have like the runes and these obviously the astrology and these different ways of divination. And we've had such sacred conversations over the past, I don't, is it like 2 years, almost 2 years? I want to say like at least a year and a half. It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
And you really are not just a massage therapist. Obviously, you're a healer, you're an astrologist, but you really have a gift of just knowing certain things. And I feel very safe, and I've shared my most intimate struggles, my most intimate hardships, my most exciting and juicy parts of my life that are very sacred, relationship stuff, all of it. And I just really trust you and I love you. So thank you for having this conversation because it's been a minute since we said we were going to have it. And now we finally are. So share anything you want to share, and then I'll start asking you questions.
All right. I remember when I saw you at the resort and I saw you from across the pool, and I just couldn't stop looking at you. And I cute too. There was something about you where, because I saw you with your family and I was there with my kids too, but I felt like you were an individuated woman who, you know, kept hold of who you are and was growing
Wow.
herself somehow. I just sensed that from you. And so then when I saw you in the locker room, I took the opportunity to chat you up when you were in the hot tub.
I was calling you over. I mean, we were both like magnets, right, to each
Yeah.
other. Yeah.
And I think maybe you mentioned Reiki or I mentioned astrology. I feel like one of us put out one of the tester modalities to see how the other
Yes.
would react. Yeah, and from then it was just on.
Yeah. Yeah. And you are so spiritual and I'm so spiritual, but we're very different. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, human design wise, we're almost identical. But we're very different in the ways that we think, certain ways that we think, and certain like backgrounds and things. And then there's a lot of crossover. So I find it really fascinating. And that's kind of where I'm interested in the conversation going is like, well, what do you, because there's so much that you know that I don't know. And I'd love to just find out from you, like, what makes your heart beat? Like, what sets your soul on fire? Let's just go there. Like, what is just lighting you up right now so much? What are you learning, or what are you sharing? What are you wanting to give to people that's just like, oh, this is what I'm into? Okay, you froze. It's gonna come back. It's coming back. Here we go. Here we go.
Very different as people and as personalities. But I feel like the our Venn diagram, like the part in the middle, I see it as wanting to do the work and wanting to know ourselves. And that's what makes me feel solid in our friendship and like I can trust you.
Hmm. Yeah. Thank you for that. It kind of cut out for a second, but so what I was asking is, like, what is the thing, Jana, that's lighting you up right now that you're learning, or that you're wanting to share? Like, you're always on our journey, you're always on your growing edge, just like I am. So, I mean, we've had conversations about parenthood, we've had conversations about relationships, we've had spiritual
Mm-hmm.
conversations, shamanism. Like, what is the thing, like, that's just like on your heart right now that's just like really lighting you up?
Mm-hmm. It really is relationships
Okay.
and part of relationships because what I notice is that the people who I consider the most successful and I have eh, admiration for, and I hope that when I'm their age, I get to where they're at. It's that they're really good with relationships. They're
Mm,
really cool. And everything else flows from that, like making money and attracting opportunities and being able to travel, like all the things that I would say that I want that are material. What actually makes those things flow, I can see, is knowing how to treat people, knowing how to be a good friend, having your own boundaries. Um, and when I look back at my life, I can see, I mean, it's just been such a journey for me, learning how to treat myself, learning how to treat other people. I have Sagittarius ascendant, and there were 5 planets in Scorpio when I was born. So I can be such a stickler for the truth,
Mm,
but but how to how to be honest in relationships, but also be gracious and diplomatic, and always be bringing out the positive in people,
yeah.
you know, um,
Yeah.
being present in a way so that I'm actually focused on how I can feed them with my attention in the moment instead of like what I want to respond with or my idea or what I want to get out of this. What I'm finding is that um, people people appreciate it so much, oftentimes unconsciously, that I'm
Mm.
just present and choosing to be whatever feeds them in the moment. That then they want to give to me somehow.
Mm.
Like I had a friend come over yesterday, and he was here all day, helped me clean my house, did some maintenance stuff for me, and he just he thanked me multiple times for just being someone who he feels like he can be himself with,
Mm.
like
Yeah.
that, like someone who does that for us. It makes it invokes in us a natural feeling of loyalty and wanting to be of service.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so good. I didn't even realize that that's your secret sauce, but it so is.
Well, I mean, it's constantly change, or like you said, what's lighting me up at this moment, type of
Yeah.
thing. um there are lots of things I'm into and that light me up, and every time I think about doing that thing, I feel excited. I have lots of those. But what good are any of those fields of studies or thing I have expertise if I don't know how to treat people, and if people like just don't feel good and seen in my presence?
Full body head tingles when you said that. Yes. What good are any of these tools if we're not being a good person, if we're not listening, if we're not being kind? Like,
Mhm.
none of it means anything. The money, the relationships, the success, the look, I've done 10 years of this or 20 years of this. If we're not showing up in our behavior as a generous listener, a kind person, someone who's willing to be of service, the heart of service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
Yes.
it also has really simplified for me what it means for me to work, or what is my work,
Mm.
because there are a number of things that I can offer services in. Like I've reached a level of being proficient in it. I can offer this, that, and the other thing. And so something that's been hard for me at times is to pare it down and focus on
Because you're a
something.
manifesting generator.
Yes, exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, when I focus on being of service and what am I called to in relationships, then it now all the pressure is off of me from the ego for me to decide, like for the little I self to decide, because it becomes obvious what is my work. It's whatever. It's really about people, and that also comes from the self work, self mothering, self fathering, self care, taking care of my inner child. Um, so simultaneously, my capacity for and intuition for nurturing myself however I need in that moment, that grows in direct correlation or as a reflection of how I work on doing that for others. They are inseparable. Like
Right.
I'm no good to myself if I'm no good to anyone else, and I'm no good to anyone else if I'm not good to myself.
Yep. Yeah. You said it. It's so interconnected. So I'm curious, what got you into astrology? Why are you still interested in it after 20 years?
Yeah. So actually, the first time I checked out an astrology book from the library, I was 10 years old, and I'm 40.
Wow. Okay.
So, and I was checking out books that were about ESP and psychic phenomena. Um, I think what I brought in from previous lifetimes, and also any astrologer who were to look at my chart, not only were there 5 planets in Scorpio when I was born, which is arguably the most psychic and sort of tantric sign, but they're all in the 12th house. And there are 12 houses. So the 12th house is the last house before the cycle begins again. And the 12th house is a metaphor for that time when it's the darkest before the dawn. It is the bardo. It is the in-between state. So I've always had a sense of having one foot in this world and having one foot in the other world. Like when I think of dying, I don't even think of it as dying. It's just like, oh, breathing will be different then, it'll be a different kind of breath. It'll be my energy expanding instead of air going in and out of my lungs.
Wow.
I have always had a felt sense of there is so much more to um and when I was a kid, I would like see ghosts. I was extremely psychically terrorized and terrified for
Hmm.
a long time,
Yeah.
probably till puberty, and then I started becoming more outwardly oriented. I was doing sports in high school, and I was kind of like a bit more in the world, started being more drawn into the world and social stuff. But when
That can I
I
just
was
say,
doing
Jana, can I just say that that is so common and
yes,
people feel shame around sharing it. So thank you for normalizing it. And also, I want to ask you, I want to put a pin because I know I already asked you something, you're answering that. But I just need to ask you, like, because this is important for people to know is how did you, and you're probably already answering this. How did you help yourself? You're starting to say you got into the world, you're getting grounded, you're playing sports, but like how have you helped yourself with this?
you mean with to not get so lost in that or stay
To be
connected?
terrorized by it, by that world.
Oh, so actually, what I was talking about terrorized me was when I was younger because I would see ghosts and stuff
Right,
like that.
exactly. That's what I'm
Oh,
asking.
okay.
Yes.
Um, okay. So when I was 14, I started doing yoga at home by myself from a VHS that I got from the grocery store. And what I noticed was that it felt like I was going through motion, feel like a workout, but for some reason I just felt so good afterwards. So yoga off and on was always what I kept coming back to. I didn't know why, but I just knew if I breathe the way that the guy said in the video and I do these poses, I'm going to feel better. So I think that was huge
Okay.
in helping me, right? Like I had a tool, I had something that I know I do this and I'm going to feel better. I can change my state.
Interesting. So when you were breathing deeper, that helped you to not feel terrorized by these energies on the other side.
Yes, because it got me in my body.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you weren't when you were lifting out of your body and being more of a conduit for these energies, they were coming through to you.
Yeah, then I was vulnerable.
Okay, got it.
But I was going through my young life not realizing how ungrounded I was,
Okay.
um, realizing how many entities as well were attached to family members and were hanging out in the house. Um, and the bloodline too, because certain types of spirits will attach to someone in the bloodline, and then like we know genetically how trauma gets passed on and like affects the epigenetics. So similarly, there will be certain types of spirits who feed off of certain emotions and
Mm.
paradigms of thought, and those travel along the bloodline too.
Okay. So how does that, do you feel like answering how, we're like going down a tunnel here. How does that work? How does it travel with the bloodline, those spirits?
So, like when we're young and we're in the family system, there are just habitual emotions that are floating around us all the time, and they make their way into our nervous system. And it can take us a long time, later on, maybe we do counseling or we do some kind of healing work and we start to realize, oh, that actually is not mine. That when this happened, or I thought that that was me because it was just the water I swam in from the time I was born. So that's how the spirits get passed on, because as soon as I get into those habitual emotional states, which are also habitual hormonal states, now I am producing that frequency that kind of spirit, likes to feed on.
Got it. Interesting. So there's what I'm hearing is, and you're cutting out a little bit here and there. So um, we'll see how we go. But what I'm hearing is that there's certain emotional patterns that get created, that get learned, and these energies and patterns get passed on through our families. And
Yeah,
then those spirits on the other side, those entities, those energies, maybe darker forces, if you will, can kind of like glom on or get attached or use those emotions, those darker emotions as an entry point. Is that
exactly.
right? Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So that was happening to you a lot when you were growing up, but then the yoga and sort of getting more grounded into sports really helped you to dissipate that a little bit and create a little bit of a boundary and get more embodied. Like
Hmm.
really, really it was about your embodiment. Okay. Okay, so where are we up to? Because I asked you so many questions. The question before the question before the question, I don't even remember.
This is how all my conversations are. This is not.
We're just gonna go on a new tangent. But yeah, I think you were bringing me through astrology and what originally attracted you to astrology, and then 30 years later, why you're still interested in it after 30 years, right?
Yes, it is a boundless sea of wisdom. You know, I mean, I'm good and I have respect for it myself as an astrologer, but there are people who I have learned from where it makes me feel like I know nothing. So,
Wow.
10 years from now, um the me now knows relatively like nothing it's going to feel like 10 years from now. And it this is
It's like the more you know that you don't know because
it,
there's just so much to know. And the
yeah,
wiser you become, the more you're in connection to how much you don't know.
yes, and that's where it becomes important also to develop one's intuition, because of all the bits of information that one could look at when one is diving into a birth chart. How do you narrow it down? And so my intuition, allowing my intuition to guide me, is huge in that. And there are astrologers who do take more of an intellectual academic approach, which is not wrong. I really value I really value them. Um, for me, when I do a reading, it's almost more like a psychic or intuitive reading, but
Hmm.
also diving into the objective scientific information that's available in the birth chart.
Got it. Yeah. And so I'm imagining you've read lots of books, but you've also looked at different now. We have so many like internet programs and things like that that you can have access to. I remember when I was younger, just like similar to you, getting so into the relationship astrology book that was super thick, and you could look up any two birthdays and compare and look at what the relationship was supposed to be like. Did you get into that?
Yeah, Linda Goodman's Sun Signs and Love Signs.
Okay.
So yeah, I read all of those like popular Western astrology books when I was younger, absolutely. And I've used astrology so much in my own life, so it has really honed for me what there are so many techniques, but which ones actually work.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that you're saying that you work intuitively because I work that way too. And I think it's great to be by the book, but also when people come to you, Jana, it's they're coming to you because of your wisdom. And the 40 years of how old are you?
I'm 40.
Yeah, that's what you said. Okay. I'm like the 40 years of life. They're coming to you for all of the ways that you've integrated life, not just you read 5 books or you took a course. They're coming to Jana because of the way Jana has integrated everything and the way that you're connected to the other side. I
Mhm.
think that's so much more thorough and comprehensive when I'm on the massage table and I'm talking to you and you're very quiet and you listen and then you just say like one thing. And it's like, oh my goodness, how did she understand that? Like she just knew, she just knows like the center point of it, of what this is. So I think that being tapped in like that, your wisdom, it's almost like you're using all of your life's wisdom and then you're drawing upon the astrology to kind of have a structure to it.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Studying the academic disciplines, which astrology really is, and especially in the East, we see that more. Like in India, they have very serious academic astrology programs, and
Okay.
it's common for Indian astrologers to be men who have the title of doctor because
Mm,
they got their PhD in math or engineering in one of the hard sciences. And then they also took advanced astrological education because it's almost considered like something that every gentleman who wants to be well rounded and, kind of have a high class life ought to know.
interesting. Interesting. I did go to in LA an older Indian man who sort of fits your description that did a full chart reading for me. And he was like, during these ages is when you're going to write and the whole thing. I think his name was like Chakrapani or
Oh, you came from Chakrapani?
I think so. I don't know.
It probably was him because he's in LA. I mean, he's arguably the most famous Indian astrologer who came to the United States and became, relatively popularly known.
Okay. I know he was kind of a big deal, so it might have
Yeah.
been him. But I also think that this guy that I'm referring to has passed away.
Yes, he
He
did.
has. Okay.
And he was going to too.
Yeah. Yeah. So after 30 years of from you when you first cracked open that astrology book to now, you're still learning more about it.
Yes, I am constantly still downloading on astrology all the time. I constantly listen to things, and that's not my only area of study that I'm constantly downloading on. But yeah, I'm constantly downloading on astrology because there's not only birth chart techniques, but there's also keeping up on what's going on with the planets right now, which
Mm-hmm.
minute to minute. And so, to do a birth chart reading for someone and be able to talk about what's going on for them now and why, or, like it's really hard right now. When is this going to end? Right? Like that's a common question.
Mm.
So I have to be keeping up on what's going on in the stars right now. So it's that part is the science because that's astronomy.
Okay. And so then do you recommend that people come to you every year, every 2 years, every 3 months? Like, what is the good amount, or is it just intuitively based on what that person feels?
I think it's nice to check in with an astrologer you connect with anywhere from once a year to like every 3 years. It's most helpful when you really feel like you are leaving behind an old self and having a major growth spurt. And you're kind of like, okay, so what now? I know what I'm not doing anymore, but what am I going towards? Or maybe you have a sense of the feeling you're going towards, but then what is that going to look like in terms of my work, my relationship, or like my kid is having a really hard time right now, and because we can look at the chart and see when that difficult period probably started and what the theme of it is. And then we also know from astrology sort of what the medicine is for it.
Mm.
And we can see when when the intensity is going to start to fade, like when the spotlight isn't going to be frying you, you know, in that area of life any longer.
Yeah, that makes me think of the times when I want to say like anywhere between 3 months to a month prior to my birthday, I noticed like when I was turning 40,
Mhm.
when I was turning 41, when I was turning 42, right before my birthday, leading up to my birthday and my actual birthday, very challenging, very emotional. So, does it help to have an astrology reading with you to be able to, is it like, hey, here's what you can expect, a lot of that? Or is it like, okay, here's how you can understand a little bit better and have a little more compassion with yourself for why this particular thing is being spotlighted right now? Is it both? Is it understanding your past? Is it all of it? Like how does it help people?
Mhm. Yeah, so the best part is helping you understand yourself. It gives you permission to be just how you are. You start to understand that you can't really help. And but then you learn to be constructive with those instead of trying to repress them and then they come out sideways in ways that cause you problems. So you learn like what are your own natural tendencies and proclivities. What are the things that you're not going to be able to escape from, right? Because often we're kind of trying to run away from ourselves.
Yeah.
So it gets really clear on why this is not meant to be something that you escape from.
Mm.
And here is the thing to master about this aspect of yourself so that it works for you instead of you feeling like it's a problem.
Got it. Okay. Wow. I can see how that would be very helpful. And so, just curious, like, what are some of the results that people, or the aha moments, or the healings that people have come back to you and said, like, this helped me because, that, like, what have you seen in the results of it?
People's feedback is that they feel lighter. People often
Yeah.
feel lighter. They feel unburdened. They feel okay being themselves. They just feel not stressed about something that. So here's an example. I was looking at this woman's chart and she didn't. I always give people the opportunity to tell me some questions or something they want to focus on beforehand, but she didn't tell me anything. So I was looking at her chart and I noticed this thing in her sixth house, and I said that you're really good at sort of morphing into match whoever you're interacting with. And I sense that maybe you don't feel great about it or that people have been down on you about it in your life, but it's actually your superpower. And you
Mm.
should not, try to downplay that thing about yourself.
Wow.
And that's
Like
like,
being a chameleon?
yeah, yeah, being a chameleon. And she felt like, and right. So pop psychology always has themes that kind of get in our heads and we start thinking like, am I like that? And so she was really influenced by a lot of the talk around like boundaries and narcissists in
Mm.
psychology nowadays. And it's well intentioned, but she was feeling down on herself, like that she wasn't strong enough in herself, um, and that she doesn't know who she really is. And she felt frustrated with herself that she didn't know what social group she belonged in. Like
Wow.
she felt um she thought that she was being disingenuous with people because she had so many friends from different social groups.
Hmm.
Um and like she just didn't need to feel any of these bad ways about it. She wasn't having any major pathologies in her relationships. She wasn't being taken advantage of. She just thought there was something wrong with her, because she's different, right? Like she had this special quality. Oftentimes if there's something different about us, it's a special quality. We might get the slightest hint at some point in our life socially that it's bad somehow.
Yeah.
And then start seeing it through that lens.
Yeah.
But to to really start to love yourself and access your talents and have these things start working for you, you have to appreciate them. Like you have to make for them and have capacity for them. Like maybe it's not bad. What if it wasn't bad?
Yeah.
What if it wasn't bad that I can be friends with people from all these different social groups and I can always meet people where they're at? Oh, wow. If that wasn't bad, then maybe that would actually be like a superpower and something almost no one is capable of. But I am.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it and I don't even have to try.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so fascinating that she interprets that, and I totally understand it as something that's bad about herself, whereas like you and I look at that and we're just like, "Oh, that's so amazing."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You and I have talked about this thing recently about feeling like we don't really fit in. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, could you talk more about people that don't fit in, what that's like for you, what you've noticed about other people that don't fit in, what you're learning about it?
Sum it up as it's lonely at the top. I mean, I'll elaborate, but that is the distilled essence of it for me. It's lonely at the top. So the more that we develop ourselves, then the more we are individuating, we're separating ourselves from the pack, and we become simply more on our own journey and our own path, and therefore following the impulses that we need to follow so as not to constrict our energy flow and expansion. That becomes more important than fitting in and just getting together with people and doing an activity that's like really not constructive. Um, and the connection isn't deep, but you show up just to be around people and to be part of a pack. So at some point, we have to choose one of these. And not neither one is bad. There's a lot
Mm.
to um be you know to just be happy in the pack, like that is a huge accomplishment in and of itself. We should all strive to be happy in the pack. And um it's like with anything, we get comfortable with something, and if we keep growing, it's gonna feel like it's holding us back, and we're gonna have to individuate.
Yeah, and is there an exception to that if you're running with a pack that the theme of that pack is that they're all individuating, that they're all evolving consistently, meeting their edge? Like, because that's really what I'm starting to find. Not locally so much, unfortunately, but a little bit in Portland. But like, I'm starting to find these women that are individuals, entrepreneurs, spiritual, meeting their edge, constantly evolving, that kind of thing. And yeah, I'm just playing around with the balance of it of like, here's the thing is like for me, it's like I don't have to be special or different. I don't always have to walk the lonely path. And also, I don't want to do things I've never really well, maybe when I was younger, but I've tended to not want to belong to be like everyone else, even though I always intrinsically, deeply, deeply wanted to belong. But
Yes.
I've sort of belonged with the misfits, right? So it's interesting that path of individuation, that we're stepping out of these like cultish environments, but that we are tribal. In our essence, we're tribal.
Yes. Yeah, our organism is that mankind is a pack animal. Um, so in our individuation and our growth of our individual spiritual essence that is only embodied like within our individual vessels, we are always pushing up against the animal shell of our biology, our lizard brain, our nature as a pack animal. Like if we don't feel a sense of belonging, it can start sending off alarm bells, in our hormone system. It can feel like a threat to our lives because mankind does not have like sharp teeth and fur, and we can't run very fast, and we're not great swimmers. Oh, and we're not great swimmers. So our survival depended upon being part of the pack.
Mm-hmm. To
As,
survive, yes. Yeah,
as we
got it.
individually pack, there's something in arguably the deepest part of our biology that starts to freak out and think, I'm going to die without them. I'm
Yes,
going to
yes,
die like me.
yes.
And in the modern world in commerce, right, we can feel like, well, my business is going to die if I'm not well liked in the network or well thought.
Mm. Yep. Yeah, for sure, for sure. And yet, the more that we have an opinion, like really good comedians that we love have really bold opinions, and that's why we love them. The
Yes,
more we have a bold opinion, the more we fly our specific flag, the more the right people can see us.
that's right. And if we don't fly our flag, then how will the people who need us find us?
Hmm. Yep, exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah, so astrology is still lighting you up. And then as a healer, what are some of your favorite modalities for healing? What does that look like? If someone wanted to come to you, how would they come to you? What would they receive from you? Is that something you're wanting?
I love healing work. Like when I think of and for my work in general, I've asked myself a lot, if I didn't have to work, like what would be the work that I would want to do because I love it, and so that's what I do. So I do love healing work. I have to say, I only want to work with people who really are doing the work themselves. Like
Yeah.
there was a time when I stopped doing hands-on healing work because I felt like I was enabling people,
Yep.
you know, them out of pain and they feel so much better. But they weren't really like, wanting to change their lives. Like,
Mm.
and like, that's fine. It's not for me to say, but, um, in order for me to keep growing, I have to have contact on a regular basis with people who themselves are growing. So if you are someone who is growing, you
Mm-hmm.
can you can email me. It's connect at janajoneslivingwoman.com. Um, yeah, and my website, I'm redoing a lot of the verbiage right now. So if you go to my homepage, it doesn't um like the website's not how it usually is, where you can contact me on there.
A
Also,
little under construction. So,
yeah,
so like what so say this person is like, yeah, I am committed to my growth. I am taking responsibility. I have ownership. I am not coming to you as a victim. I'm not coming to you to solve me, fix me, be my savior, be my guru, but they're coming to you because they're like, "Hey, I just want some facilitation to enhance what I'm already doing." What are the ways in which you are healing? Like what does that practically look like?
sure. So birth charts, divination, like I do runes and tarot. And I do energy medicine. Like I used to teach Reiki a lot. I haven't done a class for a long time, but I still love it. That's the main thing I use on myself actually is Reiki. So Reiki treatments, energy medicine, working with chakras, and yes, body work, if you're referred by someone who's already in my network. And oftentimes, I actually have people reach out to me and we just do a consult where we just hop on the Zoom. And then I make sure I get their birth chart information ahead of time. So I have their birth chart in case we want to use that. But we just start talking like, okay, so what's up? And so I'll
Mm.
kind of like look at their chart and like see what dasha or planetary period they're in. And, we'll use some runes or some tarot. Oh, dream interpretation actually is another thing that I do a lot of is dream interpretation. Yeah, so just consults in general, and we just start talking about what's going on. And it just goes from there. Something I'm good at because of having a lot of very difficult situations in my own life is um, I can help someone get themselves in a seemingly impossible situation.
Wait, it kind of got garbly. Can you say that again? Something that you're good at because you've had a lot of these particular challenging situations in your life is. Are you there? Okay. Something.
Sorry, you cut out.
No, it's my internet connection. So you were saying something that you're good at because you've had your own challenges is, and then it cut out. Oh, and now it's frozen. Darn it. Darn it. Darn it. Not not loving this connection here. Okay. There you are. I think you're back now.
I can
Okay.
hear you. Yes.
Okay. So,
Yeah. Um, did you hear the part about the seemingly impossible situations?
no, it just was like something that you're good at because you've had
Oh,
the,
gotcha.
yeah, and then we cut out.
Okay, yeah. It's just helping people start to unravel a seemingly impossible situation.
Okay.
I'm able to start asking questions. I think of it, and this is just my process for myself, is I think of it as getting to the heart of the matter. Like, okay, it's appearing as this, it's appearing as these actors on the stage. And so what's underneath that? Okay, and
Yeah.
then what's underneath that layer? All right, and then what's underneath that layer? And as far as the person I'm talking to is willing to go deep with themselves and undress all of their own um, appearances and intentions, then that's how deep we can go with simplifying this thing. And
Yeah.
it ends up being really simple. It's actually not complex. It started out as something small and simple. And what it reminds me of is, how a pearl that forms in a shell, it actually starts out as a grain of sand
Hmm.
and all these minerals come in this special combination around it. They build it up into a pearl. So the seemingly impossible situation started out as a grain of sand and just gathered all this stuff around it. So we start working through all those layers until we get back to this one little thing, and then it's simple.
Got it. Yeah, I like to call that the soul level truth in Akashic record reading. It's like, what is the truth underneath the truth underneath it? Yeah, it's like, what is the pinpoint here? Yeah, I love that. Oh my goodness. So, Jana, where did you grow up? Because I know we're going backwards here, but where did you grow up?
I was born in Los Angeles, but
Oh,
then yeah, my father was attending UCLA at the time. And then he got a job as a professor at Iowa State University in Ames, Iowa. So I lived in Iowa from the time I was 3. And then I came out to the Pacific Northwest when I was 28. So I grew up in Iowa.
got it. Okay. Started in LA, moved when you were 3. That's so interesting. And then ended up here. Yeah, I love it. Okay. And so I think that there's people out there in the world of, you know, authentic creatives, and this is called the authentic creative, expanding your capacity to feel good, that are looking for the soul level truth. And so, my last question here is, can you speak to the title of this podcast? Like, can you speak to being an authentic creative, being your authentic self, being a creative person, and or can you speak to expanding your capacity to feel good? Any of those topics as we close out.
One thing I have observed is that I have little control over the form that my creative expression is going to take. And I have to surrender to that. There is big, big energy that wants to come out of all of us all the time. And it can be terrifying because, we don't know if it's going to fit with the personality that we've fabricated.
Mm.
If you let enough surge out, if you open the dam big enough, then it's definitely going to crash the personality that you fabricated for yourself.
Wow.
And then what will the consequence be to our pack identity?
Yeah.
However, the more you practice this, the better you get at titrating how much you let out.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me think of maybe the first time or when someone is new to, say, trying psychedelics,
Mm-hmm.
and it can like take them so far off the planet and make them so ungrounded.
Okay.
But if you get more disciplined and more practiced at it, then you start to know how to titrate so that it doesn't blow open your whole reality every single time. So it's the same with our creative energy. We get better at it. We get better at releasing it in a disciplined and creative rather than destructive manner.
Wow.
Or that we do it.
Whew, that's so good. Yes, yes, we get better at sort of being in control of how we focus that creativity in the ways in which we play it out.
Yes. And
Wow.
as we get better at being self-disciplined with it, at the same time, we are able to surrender more deeply and let go even more of needing to have a sense of control. And then that makes it so that eventually, if we have continued to kind of clean ourselves up emotionally and trauma and stuff, if we have kept cleaning ourselves up, then we start to get the most beautiful art that comes out of us. Like the kind of stuff that people people used to believe that there were muses that
Hmm.
inspired the artists and that was where it came from, that it came from this pure high spiritual place. And that is what we will start to get from ourselves consistently if we keep going with the process.
Oh my God, I love that so much because it's not outside of ourself, is what you're saying. You're saying be your own muse.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this circles back to something I was thinking earlier and I didn't say it, that there's nothing out. So you said there's nothing outside ourselves, like be our own muse. And at the beginning, I talked some about spirits and the other side. But actually, I would say there is no other side. All of the dimensions and the worlds, it's all interpenetrated. The same square foot. There are all these different levels of reality, all existing at the same time. And that's actually what gives us choices in the moment of which one, it gives us options.
That's so fascinating. There is no other side. It's all interpenetrable. Is that a word?
Yeah. Yes. And
Wow.
yeah, I think so.
Oh, that makes so much sense. There's no rigid definition That it's all just happening at once. It's all interconnected. It's all interwoven. There's
Hmm.
no hard line. Yeah, that makes so much sense.
And this is also what quantum physics is telling us. In the popular science part of quantum physics that we hear about is that everything's happening all at once.
Yeah.
Well, and that everything is here now, and simultaneously it's nowhere now. Like it said that the subatomic particles, you can't predict where they are at any one moment. So everything is here all at once, and it's also nowhere all at once.
Do you want to share more about that, or because I could listen to that all day.
Um, have you heard what they're saying? How uh, like high 90 some percent of an atom is space.
Hmm. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Um, and so I learned this um, philosophical framework that I'm going to reference from Kashmir Shaivism, which is a Shiva and Shakti worshiping form of Tantra from the northern mountains of India. So physics is saying that um, most of everything is actually just space,
Hmm.
and in tantric Shaivism, they would say almost everything is Shakti, which is like space, but it's also undifferentiated potential. So it can become anything at any moment. But it can only become something if the light or consciousness of Shiva, the masculine principle, happens to focus on it right there.
Yes.
And likewise, and there's a really good illustration of this in the movie What the Bleep Do We Know?
Hmm.
Um, so energy is it's a wave until it gets our focus, our consciousness. Like our consciousness is Shiva's consciousness. Then it becomes a particle.
Okay.
So
Yep.
until it becomes something because we focused on it.
Yes.
Um, and really, anything can happen and anything can come into creation at a given moment because most of everything is just that space and undifferentiated potential.
And so, with that information, is that how you manifest for yourself? Is that how you meditate? Is that how you detach? How do you use that information in your life?
It helps me to be at peace and feel normal that I don't feel in control.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, of course you don't feel in control. Almost everything is just undifferentiated potential, and anything could happen at any time. And it's and Shakti is what the Jungians would call chaos,
Hmm.
right? So and the ego fears chaos.
Yes.
Um, and but it shows me, okay, and maybe I don't have control, but what can I have a choice about? And I can have a choice about what like my inner Shiva, my consciousness, focuses on.
Yeah.
And even then, like the results aren't guaranteed,
Hmm.
because I'll like, okay, I'm gonna focus on X, but doing so, um, it changes a lot of other things too, and it
Hmm.
refines my focus. Then I start focusing on something else. So you know, it's just such a process and such a journey, and we have to simultaneously surrender as much as possible. And just I think of it as the golden thread. Like when we get hold of the golden thread of what is true, we've got to hold on to that because that is the golden light of Shiva's consciousness that turns the wave into a particle that actually makes something like solid in my life right now.
I love these types of conversations. It's
Me.
so beautiful. Thank you. You're so wise. You have so much information that you've integrated. I can tell that we could swim in this conversation for a really long time and there we'd keep unraveling more and more of your wisdom. I can tell like we just only scratched the surface. So to be continued, but for now, I just want to say, Jana, thank you for being who you are in the world. I know it's not always easy to be such a differentiated soul and to be a leader and to, know what you know and to stand in your truth and to be so authentic and to show up so much in your authenticity. But I know that it's always worth it. And I know that the right people find you and the right people see you and the right people recognize you and that you are here on a really huge and really deep and important mission and that you've been here many, many times, but that you're continuing to choose to be here, not only for your children who are so beautiful and important and essential to you. And I know you're such an incredible mother, even on the days that you don't think that you are, because I know we've talked about that, but like also the way that you've shown up for me, that way that you've shown up for my family, the healer that you've been for us, the sounding board that you've been for me. Like I know that anyone that comes into your alignment with you, is going to wholly benefit from your groundedness, your depth of wisdom and knowledge, and your compassion and your care. Because really, like at the end of the day, I think so much of it is what you started talking about is that you're just present, you're listening, you care. And that, above all, is what matters to people. And I think that's where we started. So that's a good place to end. I love you so much. Thank you
I
for
love you.
this.
Thank you for the, and you know, having 5 planets in Scorpio, I'm actually naturally kind of shy. So this was wonderful. Like, like you helped bring me out. And I feel like, this is going to be the beginning of me being able to do more things like this. So thank you for helping lead me out into the light.
You're needed. You're needed. So needed. You're so welcome. Please keep coming out. And we will see you all next time. Stay tuned because there's so much more goodness. And we'll see you soon. Bye.